Today, I'm talking to Vicki Apodaca, whose experience in building teams and solidifying operations has resulted in 2 exits where the startups were acquired. Vicki's combination of creative and strategic thinking has been described as unicorn, yet Vicki has also been successful in creating transparency and balance for herself and her team. Vicki is currently on the founding team and CMO of Sand Turtle. I hope you find inspiration in what Vicki shares. To support our podcast, please check out the sponsors in the description, where you'll also find links to contact me with questions and feedback. And now, here's Vicki Apodaca. Welcome, Vicki. I appreciate you making the time today for episode 3 of The Joe Show, and building as fast as we can, but just really to get the stories of inspiration and how you are overcoming challenges in growing businesses. And I love that, woman in tech angle, that you've got plenty of experience with other businesses before your current one. So just tell me a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you're up to.
Yeah, so Apodaca is a pretty common name where I come from. I'm from New Mexico. I'm here in the U.S. I know you're out in Australia, and actually, my surname is from one of the founding families from New Mexico. So we're definitely like very old family here, but it's not as common in many places. I did my bachelor's degree out here. I went to University of New Mexico. At the time, I didn't feel like I had a ton of opportunity. I graduated from business school. I really wanted, I don't know, I had this dream, which is ironic now, but I had this dream to be like in a very like corporate position, like big city kind of girl. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something fun. But then my last year of studies, I did a study abroad, and it actually was in Australia. And I loved it so much, and I got this exposure to a new place that I ended up going out there post-graduation. And so when I did go out there, it was really hard for me to find work that wasn't just like hospitality, working in a bar kind of thing. And I'm like, I want to use my brain. And the people that were really willing to take a chance on me were small businesses and startups. So that's, I kind of stumbled into the entrepreneurship and startup world because I wanted to use my brain beyond just pouring beers, which, no offense to people that are doing that, but I was like, I really wanted to be trained in this. And so that's what I did. I did some brief work for a very small agency, marketing agency out there on the side while I was bartending. And then I kind of got some exposure to that and met somebody when I was out there who was actually from Europe, and my visa in Australia was expiring. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking at going to Europe. Of course, follow my heart. And I could not get a work visa. So again, that same sort of story came back to me, and I was like, okay, well, these, a lot of the bigger corporations, this person that I thought I was going to be, wanted me to work in the US for a period of time and potentially transfer out. And it wasn't very easy for me to just move overseas unless I worked for a while and had some reputation there. So yet again, let someone who could take a chance on me, the entrepreneurs, startups, the small businesses, ended up through Angels List, which I think the name has changed now, found a job for like a marketing lead role at a startup, and they were willing to sponsor my visa. And so that's what took me to Copenhagen, which is where I was. And I worked for that company for a couple of years, and it was 3 of us. We hired a 4th and a 5th. And that was really my biggest exposure. So very much on the ground, founding team. And I haven't left that role since. Different companies, but not that role itself. I've been in there since.
Yeah, growing the teams and growing the actual business itself as well.
Yes. Yeah. From the ground up, 0 to 1.
I love it. I love the adrenaline of that kind of thing. It becomes a little bit of an addiction, doesn't it? Let's start another business and let's see where we can take it. But
it's almost masochistic because statistically 94+% of startups fail. And what I tell everyone is I have been through exits. I've seen successes happen. One might say I've been part of some of that, but I try to stay humble. But also I've seen them fail. That startup in Copenhagen, we were raising our Series A and just wasn't happening. And that's not the first time that's happened where I've been in that seat. So, like I said, a little bit masochistic because it's rare that they succeed.
It
So
is true. We of course like to hear the overnight successes and all that sort of thing when the older luck is actually the result of a lot of hard work over a long time, and positioning is plenty of ideas don't pan out. And that's one
no.
thing I'm very interested in is just finding the things that do, looking at why, and any gems that can help the listeners go, okay, that's going to work in my business. I'm going to incorporate that is fantastic. So yeah, as far as what happened to you after Copenhagen, then where did you head there?
Well, that business died and my visa died with it. So my then ex-boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, and I broke up. I left the country and I came back to the US and spent some time living with my parents back in New Mexico. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? It was kind of a crazy situation. But prior to me leaving, I'm a pretty big go-getter. I'm like, I need to find a new job. I loved the startup vibe. So here I am going back to Angel's List and trying to find another job. This one was a more later stage startup. I think I was a little burnt by that. I was like, okay, I don't want to like have some trauma happen again with the startup dying at my
Yeah,
feet. It
you'd like the
was a
paycheck
little
to
bit,
continue.
yeah, it was nice to have a consistent paycheck. So I ended up joining a company called PureFit. It was a fitness employer wellness app. So basically worked with a lot of insurance companies and employers, and they provide fitness benefit through like gyms and kind of like a class pass kind of thing, but for your employer sponsored it. And that was really cool. I got free gym subscription with it, and that was fun. I was a growth lead there. I ran the social media, and then I kind of stemmed out a little bit and doing more like content marketing in a general sense and everything. So I was growing. The startup prior, I was doing everything because I was the only marketing person. There was a paid advertising person, I'm sorry, but most of the marketing, like content, and I was the only native English speaker at that previous company, so I was doing a lot of writing and SEO and stuff like that. But yeah, when I went to PeerFit, it was a little bit more niched, and it was great. But I decided I missed being overseas and I wanted to start my studies and I kind of wanted the experience again to kind of start from grounds up. Again, here I am. I know a lot of entrepreneurs and people of my breed, I guess, were like this, but we're like, we want to do this, this, and this all at the same time. So that's why startups are good because you can. So I ended up going back overseas. I started my master's degree overseas and started startups again. And at the time, I was actually juggling several startups. I was doing Google Paid for this.
Sounds like a typical woman.
I know, and I was studying. Yeah, I was doing Google Paid for a company that did like I don't know, these like solar ladders for like the marina. It was so random, but it was like a hardware startup. And then I also did like growth and marketing and copywriting and stuff for a startup that did like special effects technologies for filmmaking. That was really
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
And then I also was doing some consulting for Facebook ads, or it wasn't Meta yet, Facebook ads and other
Yes.
things. And so I was just juggling a lot. And I was like, I really like working at startups. Like, I really, And so, meanwhile, while I was doing this, I was doing my master's program. And I realized I actually really just wanted to do an MBA program. And the MBA program, I was doing a master's in business, but it wasn't an MBA. And I was like, well, I think an MBA would be a better fit. So after a year, I started exploring transferring back to the US because the US has great MBA programs. So here I am coming back. This sounds like this is all a lot, but it was over the course of years. So I came back and I ended up meeting and those startups that I'm talking about, it was just me and it was just two founders and me in both of them. And then there was a couple others. So I was very used to working with just the founders and that was it. And so when came back to do my MBA, unfortunately, those were hardware startups, which means I had to be present. But software,
Yes.
you can kind of be wherever you want. So
Yes.
I started applying again for software companies and I one back in the US, one in me in US, and it was in fintech. And I was coming back from my MBA and I'm like, okay, great. So I started working, came back, started working there, and I was founding team and marketing lead there. And that one was a little bit more established. I think there was like 5 folks there when I started, but they didn't have like a head of marketing. And what I'm very happy about and could be proud of is I was up against a very typical like tech bro kind of person, went to Stanford kind of role and everything. And that was not me. I had such, as you can hear, a kilter life and unique life. and they took a chance on me. But also, thinking back, anytime you join a startup, you're also taking a chance on them. And taking chance
Absolutely.
on the concept, right? So that's what brought me back. Mm,
That's right. Even if you're not, the company owner, it's still your career essentially is your company or your
yeah.
vehicle, that you need to manage the risk and look at the opportunities and yeah.
Well, and even if you're not like the stated co-founder, right? Because that's a special job title and role and everything. But if you're just like founding team, you
Mm.
likely are very equity based. And one advice is for anyone joining very young startup is you might not get the pay you want, but you are exchanging that for what should be equity. And if they're not offering you a decent amount of equity, you should ask for it. And like
Mhm.
Carta has some scale and models online, and a lot of other tools do as well, where you should know where you stand and what you should ask for.
I'll pop a link in
Because
the description for that one. It's a good
yeah, a lot of founders, especially highly technical founders that aren't on the business side as much, but more, I've worked with so many people that in my mind are pretty much geniuses and, they're technical in, but they actually don't know the financial side as much as they should or could. At least in the beginning, they'll learn. Trust me, they have to.
pretty
But
quickly.
yeah, they have to. But as someone who's starting or joining a company, some ways it's okay to um manage upwards, especially as it relates to equity and what you deserve and everything like that. But you should not, me as a CMO today and anything, you know, I'll be honest, I'm not making $300,000 like some CMOs would be making, right? But equity is the exchange. And in exchange with that as well is you get a lot of ownership, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I get equity, which means I partially own this company.
Which also
And
affects the mindset of the work that you're doing.
exactly, that's what I was going to say is like, that means you're in it, right? And it's not just a job. And
Yes.
you can't look at it as just a job.
I think it
So,
would be interesting for more business owners to look at offering equity, even if it's not in tech. It's traditionally done in the software industry, but there are
yeah,
plenty of other businesses where that could be rolled out if people are having trouble finding employees who will go all in. But that sense of ownership, I think, shifts a lot of powerful levers in our brains and the way we look at problem solving and attention to detail and long term growth of a business. I think it's a very important thing, especially if you want people who are independent and self starters, but to stay with your company and not learn the ropes and then take off and build their own. That's a really
yeah,
great way to approach it. So
yeah.
if you were building a team, what would you say are the foundational things you need to get in place fast to build a good team?
You need someone who knows finances, whether it's at a house or in house or whatever. I personally have witnessed budgets not being well established or managed, and suddenly you're out of money. And I've heard from founders, or I also have some involvement in the VC side. I've also heard investors say that founders come to them a month saying, we have a month runway. Like,
Oh,
that should
leaving
never
it a little
happen.
bit too late.
That should never
Yes.
happen, right?
Yes.
Like, you should know your runway well ahead of time. You should know
Yes.
you should and one thing that I've always been an advocate for, and I've gotten in trouble for this, is transparency with team members. Well, sometimes they're like, "Well, as we don't, they're not gonna be as motivated," and I'm like, "These people are working at a fraction of the cost they would work at another company." Again, back to the equity thing. They have stake in this game. People should
Yes.
know.
I think it's not fair to run on hopium and not tell
No,
people if things are bad. It's not honouring their time and their commitment. So I think it's
no.
great that you're transparent about that, despite people maybe
Yeah,
not liking you for it.
and I've been around other leaders who weren't transparent, and I was transparent. Well, guess what? Teams were happier at the end of the day when things, hit the
Absolutely.
fan. The ones that had the ones that kind of somewhat knew this might be coming and maybe I should start job seeking or maybe I should start figuring out a contingency plan. But yeah, no, someone that knows finances, operations. It's funny because my title is marketing, but my mom is a very like type A, color code, alphabetize everything kind of thing. And she works as a secretary, right? But like, I think I inherited that trait. So it's funny because I'm marketing, but I feel like I've adopted the operational role in many companies. So I'm like, how are we measuring our KPIs? How are we doing our reporting? How are we making sure that, we understand the ROI of what we're doing? And, marketing is related to a lot of that. But I've also been like, are we sure that we know what devices are being used? Do we know we're sure what software is being used and how it's being used, and is it secure? And oh, is our data privacy policy up to date? And things that aren't necessarily my role, but it's just like I've learned a thing or two about a thing or two over time. So I think an operations role in a startup has to be a bit of a generalist in that they need to know processes, efficiencies, reporting, a little bit, especially with the software, like a lot of data knowledge is really good, and financial information. But I also think it needs to be someone that just kind of keeps things on task and sets goals. It's not uncommon that the founders, they are where they are for a reason. They have a vision, they have this new technology or new concept, or sometimes it's not even new, it's just fixing what's broken or old, but it's something that's novel, and that takes a very, like, creative brain, and unfortunately, creative brains aren't always the, "Hey, plan ABC, step 1, 2, 3" kind of people. So, you need something to tether them down a little bit, and so having a strong operationals role or having leadership that has operation mindfulness day to day is super important.
It's the
Um,
complementary skills, and also then the ability to get along very well, like people you actually
yes.
want to spend time with for the long term. I know Dave Blunden on the Moonshots podcast, and he's investing, taking all the MIT grads and popping them into an apartment building nearby and letting them cook while he looks after all of the admin and the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I know with when looking for teams when they want to invest in their companies, they're saying we want founders who are friends as well, who I suppose want to spend a lot of time together for the long term. But then, as you
Yeah.
say, also the complementary skills are so important. You can't all just be the creative types and have the
Yeah.
finances sitting in the corner.
Yeah. Anemically,
So
yeah.
you're right,
I
though. The
it's a
marketing, it does become an extension in operations, because if you're going to bring in the leads and the customers, you want to know what's happening with them once they're in the door, what
Yeah.
their experience is like, and what the AOV is, and how that ties into the revenue growth of the company. So it becomes a natural extension that I think if you can stay across all of it, it flows a lot better. Things are going to play
Yeah.
nicely together when you do that. So it's fantastic that you do.
Yeah, and, I guess because my LinkedIn feed is just, feeding the echo chamber that exists in marketing people, but, there's a lot of, like, "Marketers don't get enough credit," or "Marketers are doing more than they need to," or there's, like, the T-shape marketer, that was a thing for a while. It's
We
like the
can all have a
T-shape
whinge.
marketer. Yeah, yeah, and I'm like, I mean, I get it, but I think it really, really depends on the organization, and kinda to your tune about friends, I often use the correlation of family. I also use the correlation of, like, a military squadron
Mm,
because I feel like it's saying do or die is a very extreme thing, and my dad was military, so I'm not gonna discount at all what military, people of service and veterans do because it's super important and it is actually do or die. But in a startup concept, it is kinda do or die with your job because what you give
absolutely.
in is what you get out.
Mm,
And if one person of your squadron in the startup sense is not doing their job, it is so clear. Everyone feels it. And
mhm.
if it's not getting done, I I've learned over the years to be a little bit more cutthroat because and I hate that because I really like to look after, like, people of underserved people and people, but, like, I do give everyone a chance. But unfortunately, if it's not, you're not contributing it, you're hurting. You're not helping
It's
your
so important. My partner and I like to get out sailing, and when you're out on the water and you see a storm coming, the principle is reef early. When do you reef?
Yeah,
Drop your sail down the first time you think of it, not maybe later. And it's the same in business. Every time you get that inkling that there's something not quite right, it's the minute you start ignoring that is the minute the rot sets in, I think, or gets
yeah,
allowed to grow and run away. It's just so much better for everybody's peace of mind to get onto things quickly, and it doesn't matter if it comes across a little bit too hard, I think, because, we all need that discipline, people need that reminder, and if you can nab it early, then it yeah, it could be life or death for the company and for everybody's jobs. So if you've got
yeah.
finance and you've got, business operations, and then what are you looking for in, I guess, when in the rest of the team, and then also moving on to thinking about the actual growth curve of a startup?
Yeah, I mean, your team should grow with the progress of the startup. Obviously, you need a go-to-market person. Depending on the business model, it might be a sales role, like might be a chief revenue officer kind of role, might be a marketing role, but someone that's getting you out to the market. And I've seen teams where sales and marketing are both hired on early, like both, because it's a tool that needs some sort of, MQLs that are handed off and everything. I've been in companies myself and been the head of marketing where I'm the only person and I'm doing digital, I'm doing copywriting, I'm doing website building, I'm doing everything. I've seen teams where, the founder is a salesperson, founder led sales, right? They're out there and, even at Centrital, the startup I'm at now, we do a lot of founder led sales. So some just go to market is so essential. And usually you kind of hit this tipping point as your company grows where you need more engineering support. Engineering, especially in software, which is most of my experience, engineering's always under resourced. They always need more, more, more. And then marketing and go to market always needs more, more, more. But a lot of times that also means budget. Whereas engineering talent's going to take up budget, but it's a different, right? It's more operational hiring budget. Of course, like tooling will need incremental needs, as you're getting more visits, as you're getting more events, data going through or whatever, you need to grow your tooling and make sure that it's growing and you're not hitting capacities there. On this marketing side, like as you grow, suddenly, hey, we need to increase our ad spend another $20,000 a month, or we need to do this or that, or we need to be at more events, we need to be present at conferences and stuff like that. So there's definitely inflection points, right? Uh, I'm gonna really annoy a lot of marketers here, but I believe in product led growth, but I also believe in product marketing growth because product led growth, at the end of the day, what I tell people is that if the product's not working or if it's not worth selling, I can't promote it. I can't sell it.
Exactly. Yes.
So I do kind of advocate more so for like the product and engineering teams to kind of grow first if we have to.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if I get some more money in my door, like, hey, put some stuff, but give me some more money so I can kind of make myself one to many. That's kind of the route I would go. But eventually
Definitely.
you do need a team.
It's the
So
wisest approach. I mean, trying to validate something where the product isn't proven to be effective, if it's not something people want or need, then it's just a waste of everybody's time and money. And once you've
yeah,
proven that, it's I think it's actually easy to do the marketing because all you're doing is finding more people like the original ones who needed it and connecting them. It's not rocket science, you know?
yeah.
I think Seth Godin put it so well when somebody asked him, "How do I make my product go viral?" And he said, "Well, make a product people want that they want to talk about." It's like
Yeah.
really not that complicated, you know?
I mean,
So
going viral isn't even really a strategy. It's like it's a consequence of doing something great, right? Which is exactly what you're
precisely,
saying. Yeah.
precisely. So tell me a little bit more about Send Turtle, your current gig. I'm interested in a few aspects. I'm interested in what's working, if you're allowed to talk about that, and what challenges you've found with growing Send Turtle. Tell me what it does
Yeah.
first so that the viewers know what Send Turtle does.
Yeah. So SendTurtle is a document intelligence tool. It's basically everything from sending a document. We do post send analytics. We do have AI components for that. Once someone think of like if you're a marketer, it resonates. If you have like an email tool where you can see clicks and opens and views, or you use like a website analytics tool where you can see like heat mapping and stuff. We do all of that for documents.
That's what I
Documents,
loved, the
proposals,
analytics that
pitches.
show
Yeah.
how far through a document somebody's read. I
Yeah.
haven't I've seen ones that show whether a document was opened before, but that
Yeah.
analytics that is deeper, I thought that was an excellent idea.
It's much deeper, and we also do e-signatures. So we say everything from sent to signed. So if you're going to send a proposal, you're going to see if they got through the contract and see if they read it. If you're a salesperson and you want to see if your proposal's working, you can also see time on page. So let's say you send a pitch deck or a sales proposal with slides, and they're spending a lot of time on a certain slide. You'll know that maybe it's sticky, maybe it's interesting. Make some conclusions. And then we do have engagement analytics through the AI tooling so that people can so basically it'll give a suggestion on what to do next. It'll say, oh, Joe went on this slide and on slide 3 if they spent 2 minutes on it, you might want to follow up on that specific slide, or you might want to tweet the message or something like that. So it'll make some assumptions. And of course, as we were talking before we started recording, anything with AI, use it as an aid and a tool. So if it makes a suggestion, use your critical thinking to know, okay, yes or no,
Yes,
or how do I move forward? But
that's right.
yeah, so it's great. And we're in the SaaS category. SendTurtle actually originated as a cyber tool. So there is an enterprise cyber tool called ShieldWolf that the parent company of SendTurtle that they built prior to me joining. And then I joined as we're founding the SendTurtle, which is a direct to consumer. Anyone can sign up. You go to app.sendturtle.com and you can sign up. It's an affordable tool. It's one of the most affordable ones on the market of its kind. So we're targeting small businesses, startup founders, sole proprietors, people who are, busy people and day to day just want to know more about how their proposals and contracts are landing.
So what are you finding, if you're happy to share, because I think it helps small business owners? Like currently, things are changing so quickly. Like I tell people, don't buy annual subscriptions to anything at the moment, just
Yeah.
monthly's enough because there are new tools all the time, which is great for consumers. I guess you've got the sunk cost of setting up with a tool, but also as you're selling though, it's a little bit of a problem and you want to keep people engaged
Yeah.
for long-term customers. You don't want them bouncing too quickly. And yeah, what are you finding this would be the biggest challenge? Are you happy to talk about that or how you've overcome it for Send Turtle in terms of getting the word out about the product?
Yeah. So it's ironic because I feel like I spend so much of my career on like go to market and finding product market fit. And we really needed to hone in exactly who we're serving. So tools comparable, there's a lot of ways you can approach this. We've done a lot of customer research, interviews, surveys, stuff like that. We've also done a lot of competitive research on similar tools and see who's using those. And it's funny because the similar tools to us, and I won't necessarily name drop them, but like they have 5 different ICPs listed: salespeople, consultants, marketing managers, founders, a bunch of ICPs on their website, the very top. And we're all looking at this and scratching our head like, okay, but like, on the traditional sense or the more intellectual approach of ICPs, you really try to find one beachhead group and you go with it and then you
Mm,
expand. So we're like, how are all these tools just serving everybody all the time? So it was a little
agreed.
bit yeah. So, and it's like, if you're building for everybody, you're not building for anyone. I mean, that's kind of an old adage. And so we're like, well, who are we building for? And we, like I mentioned, Central originated from another tool that was like a cybersecurity tool, but we noticed a lot of people were using the secure sharing component of it. And then our technical team's really great, and really knowledgeable about AI. So they wanted to add in all the analytics side, right?
Mhm.
So we did this and we're building this and we're a little bit like, okay, we're building this. It's a great tool. There's similar tools in the market. We're doing a lot of analytics. So like you mentioned, a lot of them just track opens and that's it. So we're doing way more. But we noticed a lot of competitors were doing the same. We're doing a lot of ICPs and we're like, okay, but we want to really find like our highest quality one. So we kind of
Mm.
went back and said, okay, who's going to use it a lot? And the thing is, if you're purely speaking of founders who are sending pitch decks, and we've said this publicly as well, like they're really using it during fundraising. I mean, I know founders are kind of always sort of fundraising, but there's times when they're really, really fundraising, right? And they're
Yes.
really sending out pitches.
Fundraising.
Yes. So it goes up and down. And we're like, well, we want recurring customers, to your point, right? We
Yes.
want people who are year round, using it year round. So we've really honed in on sales managers and sales teams using it for proposals and contracts and partnership negotiations. And that really is where our niche is. But because we do have like the cyber side of it, it's all encrypted and everything. I mean, someone who's a lawyer could use it and send contracts, or someone who's an
Yes.
accountant can receive financial data through it and it's fully encrypted and they can sign, a contract or something with their clients. And so there are a lot of use cases, but really
Yes,
honing in on
legal
one.
and health, definitely.
Yeah. So there's a lot, and that's what's hard in general because I also advise founders and I notice that trend a lot is like finding that one beachhead market is so hard because everyone, especially when you're building a product, and I get lost in this too, is you're building the most amazing product in the world. Like you need to have that sort of confidence in yourself and in what you're building. Otherwise, it trickles down and shows. But you do need to get real with yourself a little bit too and be like, is this useful? Who's it useful
That's
for? Is it good
totally
enough? Yes, it's
the
a
the
juggle.
simple way the simple way I do that for clients, if they've got some business happening, they're not starting out completely from scratch, so they have some customers. I literally look at who their most profitable existing customers are and then stalk their demographics and attributes and habits. And that's how I create their ICP to begin with. And that works a treat. It's just, again, I like to keep things very simple. And one of my first questions to a client will be, who's your best customer right now? Like, who is that person? And then
Yeah,
go and build out based on that. And obviously, as
yeah,
you say, there are other versions of humans. They're not all going to
yeah,
be that person, but when you can, I think I took Seth Godin's advice to heart, find the smallest possible audience initially, and then
yeah,
it will grow naturally. And it just makes things very clear. I think avoiding confusion is just so nice for that mental load when you're starting out. And it's
yeah,
been effective every single time. It's fantastic. And also then using their language in your first ads. So whatever their
yeah,
feedback is the gold, isn't it? As you would know with marketing, it's just
yeah,
the copy writes itself then, and it resonates.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I came from like the schooling, of buyer persona, and Sue is a 30-year-old housewife that's on Pinterest and, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, I sort of despise that approach because I feel like, as you mentioned, there's different types of people. And I'm like, well, Sue has a subset of a lot of different versions of what Sue's into. Sue might not have kids. Sue might have a dog,
Yes.
Sue, whatever. And it's like you can kind of get there, but I like to take maybe it's because I'm like more product marketing by trade, but like I like to take more of like a behavioral analytics approach where it's like, okay, what behaviors are people doing? And then kind of go back from there. Okay, like people are sending, this is useful for proposals. Okay, well, who's sending proposals? It's sales managers. It's blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, who's sending them a lot? And who's
Yep.
sending them every day?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's
That's
probably this
right.
people, right?
There's a
And then,
clue.
yeah, yeah. So I try to do that, but it is so common for founders and for startup teams to be building products for nobody
Yes.
because I think it's cool, because I think it's unique, because I think it's something that's not needed. And I'm a victim of this as well. I'm not perfect. And you can do that, but it only gets you so far. Because if no one's buying it or no one's using it or no one's even signing up is a struggle. And I've come across this at previous companies too. And every company is unique and every problem and whatever is unique. If you are going to do a free product, like truly free, you need to earn somehow. Because once people are
Yes.
free, they're not gonna go off free.
Yep.
It's unfortunately as a business, you're not building a business for the goodness of the world and that's it. Like in order to like build a business, you still need to make money.
It's to
So
me
like
that contributes to the good of the world because the founders need to
exactly.
eat. They have families they need to send to school. I mean, that's
Yeah.
humanity, isn't it?
Well, and I guess maybe there's a better way to say this, but you can build for the goodness of the world. In fact, I always try to build for the goodness of the world. But also, in order to serve the world, you need to sustain as a business, which means you need to earn money. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I think there was a lot of guilt over that sort of stuff, and everybody had to say, "Hang on, put your own oxygen mask on first, and get that
Yeah.
goal firmly embedded in your head." Because if you're not existing, you can't help anybody. So, yes. Tell me, Vicky, in your career so far, what are you most proud of?
I mean, I've been through some acquisitions and obviously proud that, some are more formidable than others, but it's like proud that you built something that someone was willing to pay for or buy from you. That's an accomplishment for sure. Honestly, on a more personal level, like I'm proud that I've always been able to maintain a balance. Like I do work through the night, but not always. One thing I've had hard crashes and burnout, like I have in in my life, and I'm pretty transparent about that with career stuff because at a startup, it's so common to burn out. And I've gotten so much better at like just having like no tech time, like turning the phone off or turning the laptop off, and feeling good that I don't need to be there at all times because the engine is humming, things are working, and I don't need to be on. And I think I'm very proud that I've been able to find that because I do truly value family and I truly value friendships. And I think, startups are your life, but also they're not at the end of the day. And so if I didn't have, my partner and my dogs and, you know, family and stuff, like I wouldn't be able to have a career. I feel like I need to have that stability at home. So I think that's
It's
what, at the
so
end of the
true.
day, it's what I'm so proud of is just being able to have balance.
I love hearing you say that. It's been a big lesson for me too. When you're a doer and you can see more that needs doing, and there is always more that needs doing, and you want it to be at the best it can. So there's always something else that's on your mind that you think, I need to implement this or improve,
Yeah,
tweak that. And it was I can't tell you what a battle it was for me to stop. I actually down tools at 3 every day, and I get outside and I get on the mat and the rowing machine and go and
it's
get
great.
sweaty. And I actually hate getting sweaty. I hate exercise. So that was a battle in my own head. And I'm just coming into my 7th week now of every single weekday. And I do okay on the rower because I'm the kind that if I do a time, I will slack off because I've got a
Yeah.
podcast on and I will slack off. So I would just like go nowhere. So I have to give myself a distance. But I can tell you that since I have just the mental clarity and feeling, I guess, when you keep your word to yourself, it seems to affect the way you approach everything else. And just keeping my word to myself of getting out there every day has been a really big deal. So I like hearing you say that, doing it without feeling bad. And then you can bring your best to your work.
Yeah, it's take one step back to take two steps forward. Is like a
Totally.
motto I've learned. Like you need to take a step back to keep going. And there's a lot of psychology around this, and especially being like a woman, and I'm Latin American, so like being a woman of color and everything, and being in a male dominated industry as technology is, as fintech is, and all that. Saying no is really hard for me
Yes.
and ingrained in me. And, I have a therapist and I think it's very healthy to have a mental health therapist. And she's helped me learn how to say no, but also to
Brilliant.
like puff out my shoulders and chest and say, I'm okay. I don't need that. Or stand up for myself. That like lesson for younger women in technology or younger women in business in general is it's not. I don't think it's truly in all of us to do that. I think the younger generation is learning that quicker than my generation did. But I think there's some sort of psychology and uh, biology there that's just not allowing you. We're we're caretakers. We're there to support, to nurture, right? But that means
Yes.
we sacrifice our own mental health and physical health too to do that. And so being able to say no, being able to stand up for yourself in a boardroom or in an executive meeting when you're being told no or having your eyes rolled out or whatever, like it happens and unfortunately it creates some bruises and scars, but it also means that, building respect and getting respect is important too and it's something you can do.
I think that's absolute gold to share that and just really encourage people. If you're on your game, if you know that you've built the skills, you know that you have the data at hand that applies to the situation and you've analyzed it correctly, you haven't slacked off, you can defend your position, you can put it out there. And if people want to dismiss it, it lets you defend it in a way that isn't aggressive. It's just truth, but
Yep.
also just feeling good about yourself too, not feeling, diminished. So I really love that you've put that out there. Really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with, I guess I'm going to say startup founders or people in your position who are chief of everything, ostensibly marketing office, who are the
Yep.
kind who are those types who just go in and fix whatever they can see that is broken in a business? If you could give them one gift, what would that be?
Just surround yourself with good people. The send
Love
turtle
it.
people, I did some advisory before I joined and as you mentioned, it's like a friendship, it's like a marriage, it's like a family, whatever. It's a different thing than just your work colleagues. And I'm so proud of what we've accomplished, up and down. And it's having good people, having people you can rely on, people have your back, but also people that, send a GIF with some humor or something. It's like surrounding yourself with good people makes or breaks you for sure.
Love it.
So
Love
that's
it.
my last point of feedback.
Thank you, Vicky. I will put your LinkedIn in the description so that people can surround themselves with good people and connect with you.
I
Of
like to
course,
think
the
I'm a good
center.
person. Yeah.
I suspect you could be. Fantastic. I've really appreciated your time today, Vicky. Thank you so much.
Thank you.